And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello and welcome back to the RBLR Rays podcast. I am your host, Pat Davenport, and I'm so pleased you could join us for our post-trade deadline breakdown discussion. And it's going to essentially, I'm going to prep you now, it's essentially going to be me ranting for about 30 to 40 minutes about what the Rays did at the trade deadline, what went well, what I think they could have maybe done differently, and how they have been playing over the past couple weeks and figuring out what the heck is going on with this atrocious run that we have been on. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're happy to have you aboard. If you have joined us before, you already know that we're going to be bringing you all the best analysis, breakdown, and discussion about the Tampa Bay Rays. If you have been here before, you already know what you're in for. So if you could already do us a favor, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a like on the video. It helps us out big time, and you'll get notifications whenever we go live, whenever a new episode drops, which means you'll be the first in the know. And I also encourage you, especially with me being on my own today, to go over to the YouTube feed of this podcast if you're watching live, and be sure to drop your comments, questions, hot takes about the Rays trade deadline or this series with the Dodgers or with the Yankees, and let me know your thoughts, because I would love to respond and talk some Rays with you today. I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to just get things going right away. And I'm not going to start with a pair of series losses to the Dodgers and Yankees. And I want to start with what the Rays did at the trade deadline, break down all the trades, and think about how they went and what I think I would grade them. And the Rays were quite busy this trade deadline. Me and Zach were talking last week about the trade deadline, and we thought this might be a bit of a quiet one for the Rays because they were in this weird position where they were playing pretty badly, to say the least, but were very much still in the mix of the playoff picture, maybe a couple of games out of a wild card spot. So they weren't in it enough to aggressively buy, like, say, the Blue Jays or the Tigers, but they weren't far out enough to aggressively sell, like, say, the Oakland A's or the Colorado Rockies, for example. So they were in this weird spot where they couldn't commit enough to buy, weren't out of it enough to sell. Where were they going to go? I know the Rays have trademarked their patented sell-buy combo deadline, and maybe they could have done something there, but we didn't see them making any kind of big, significant moves. But turns out they were really, really busy at the trade deadline. And that all started on the 28th of July, when they decided to pull the plug on Danny Jansen. Danny Jansen got traded to the Milwaukee Brewers, 1-for-1 for prospect Jada Arenamo. Arenamo was considered by Baseball America, the number 10 prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's a middle infielder, and he's been playing really well lately at high A. He's got some pop, he's got some speed, he plays good defense, really good bat-to-ball skills. Really interesting prospect that's risen quite a lot over the past year. He's a bit of a helium prospect, to use that overused idiom. But he is a really good return, I think, for Danny Jansen, who has, I think, unfortunately underwhelmed as a member of the Tampa Bay Rays. He was coming in after what was an atrocious season behind the plate for the Rays offensively. Alex Jackson, Rene Pinto didn't really do much offensively behind the plate. So they brought in Danny Jansen, one of the better hitting catchers, and Rortvet too, on the market. And he's come over and continued to somewhat underwhelm at the plate. He wasn't as bad as Alex Jackson hitting-wise, but he was still relatively underwhelming. And I guess to put it mildly, with the Rays, he's put up an 97 WRC+, so just below major league average as a hitter, but he coupled that with some pretty poor defense, particularly on the framing side of things. He was still a good blocker, but throwing out base runners and framing strikes, he was really, really bad at. And the Rays tend to be defense first in the catcher position. And unless Jansen was hitting really, really well, he wasn't making up for his lack of defense. And unfortunately, wasn't improving in that field. So the Rays decided to pull the plug despite signing him to an $8 million deal in the offseason. They've had enough, but they managed to pull off what I think is a really, really good return for Jansen, considering he has been an underwhelming player for the Rays, to get a really exciting and potentially high upside prospect in Arenemo. I think is a masterclass from Leander. I think that's a really great trade, and I'm really happy. The fact that we didn't have to DFA him or didn't have to just trade him for a lottery ticket or a player to be named later in cash. I think the Rays have done extremely well there. Now, caveat, the Brewers are really good at developing catcher and catcher defense. So maybe Jansen will head over there. He'll go into the Brewers lab and turn into a decent defender and couple that with his kind of major league average bat and turn himself into a really solid catcher. That might happen because the Brewers are really good at doing that. And therefore, the value for the Brewers will look a little bit better. But right now, it doesn't seem like the Brewers are getting much, but they've given up something, at least somewhat significant, in return. The Rays followed that up almost immediately by acquiring Nick Fortes from the Marlins. So they made that trade in their backstop position. Nick Fortes is an interesting guy. He is very different in terms of what he provides to Jansen. Fortes is a really good defender. He rates really well. Again, a good blocker, but what he excels at and is currently rated 75th percentile on Baseball Savant is framing. He does what Jansen cannot do, and that steal strikes around the shadow zone. That borderline area, he's going to get you strikes. Anyone that watched the game today, particularly in the ninth inning where Trinan was able to pick up some close and pivotal strike calls on the inner edge of the zone, BA mentioned that being able to get from a 1-1 count to a 1-2 count instead of a 2-1 count is hugely significant in kind of the run scored expectancy in how that might play out. And Fortes is going to be able to more reliably get those swing calls for you than Jansen, which will save runs in the long term. You might not notice it on a game-to-game basis, but overall, it could work out as much as a run or two a game. That Fortes might save you compared to Jansen on framing alone. And again, it might not look it. It might just be because the count changed slightly, but that allows the pitcher to be more aggressive. And when they're ahead in the count, they get that advantage. So I really like this move. Fortes is light hitting. I will give him that. He does make contact, but he doesn't have much power to speak of. And he's not going to provide much offensively. So don't get your hopes up there, but he is far more defensively valuable to the Rays. So Jansen for Fortes. We traded Matthew Etzel to the Marlins for Fortes. Etzel was a guy we acquired in the Zach Eflin trade and was okay. He's kind of rated in the kind of mid-teens on most Rays prospect lists. He's all right. He could be something decent utility player, I think, is the projection for him. He can play lots of different positions and he's not bad at anything, but he's not particularly standout at anything. So the Marlins get like a kind of jack of all trades, steady utility type prospect, and we get our new catcher in Fortes. And we wondered if he was going to be the new number one, coupled with Matt Tice, or if the Rays were going to make another move at catcher. That was a big question, and the Rays answered that on the 30th. They went on to then swing a trade of Zach Littell going away to the Cincinnati Reds for two pitchers, Brian Van Bell and Adam Serenowski. And Serenowski is a really interesting pitching prospect. In fact, friend of the show, Ben Whitelaw, is a big fan of Adam Serenowski and wrote a piece on his Substack about how good he thinks Serenowski is. So you can imagine what the RBLR Rays Discord sounded like when we acquired him, along with Brian Van Bell. But that quickly got pivoted as Serenowski alongside a few other players, including Ben Rotvet, including Paul Gervais, all went over to the Dodgers in exchange for Hunter Fiducia. So Hunter Fiducia is now joining the Rays backstop, and Matt Tice got DFA'd in the aftermath from that as well. And Hunter Fiducia is an interesting guy. He's played the past 2 games for the Rays, and he has good numbers at AAA, but was kind of blocked in the Dodgers system because he was behind Will Smith, who's having a career year and has been excellent for the Dodgers over the past however long he's been up. And then also they've got big time catching prospect Dalton Rushing there as well. They're pretty loaded behind the dish. So Fiducia was a bit blocked despite doing pretty well at AAA and was kind of without a place to get major league playing time. And now he's going to come over to the Rays, and he's played the past 2 games. The Rays really highly value him. He might be our new number 1 catcher, with Fortes being the backup at this point, as Fiducia is a good framer. Hasn't shown great stuff in the first 2 games when it comes to preventing the running game, but is a good framer, a decent blocker, and will be steady behind the plate, but also has some good pop as well in the bat and has some higher offensive upside than Fortes did. So essentially it was a 3-team deal almost, where the Rays sent Gervais, Rotvet, and Serenowski. Well, Gervais and Serenowski to the Dodgers and Littell to the Reds in exchange for Fiducia and Brian Van Bell. And Van Bell is, again, he's kind of been a quadruple A type right-handed pitcher. Similar stuff to Littell, could be the next Zach Littell in waiting, given a bit of tweaking in the Rays system. So that was an interesting move as well. But overall, it means we've completely redone our catching. So we went from Jansen and Tice to now Fiducia and Fortes. And I think this is a huge upgrade. I'm really, really happy with how that's gone. Fiducia has a lot of potential, and he could be the solution behind the plate. And if he's not, we've still got people like Dominic Keegan, not that far away. He might be the replacement for Fortes. So I'm happy with how that trade went as well. Littell was a free agent at the end of the year, so it was good that we managed to get something for him instead of him leaving for free at the end of the year. And if what we got for him was ultimately our catcher for the next few years, I'm really happy with that as well. So I'm really happy with the Littell trade. It's a shame to see him go. I mean, we got to give our salute to Zach Littell as well, because he's been unbelievable as a Tampa Bay Ray. We picked him off the DFA scrap heap a couple years ago, and we turned him from a kind of garbage time reliever when he was DFA'd into a very, very solid, reliable starter, which I think is a huge, huge piece of taking one man's trash as another man's treasure. Zach Littell is going to be a reliable number 3 or 4 starter for pretty much any rotation. And he's been awesome for the Rays, a steady hand for the Rays, and an innings eater for a Rays team that has at times really needed that. So while I'm devastated to see him go, thank you for your service, Zach Littell. You've been amazing. And I'm sure Zach Dabb, my co-host, is sad to see you go as well. But yeah, what a piece of value added by the Rays to even turn a DFA scrap heap into a catcher and a pitcher that could have some upside as well. The next trade that the Rays made was during the game on the trade deadline on Thursday. We caught it on Hug Watch before it was actually announced. We saw Jose Caballero making himself known in the Rays dugout, making lots of hugs, and we wondered where he was going. Turns out, not very far. Across the dugout, across the diamond, to the New York Yankees. Caballero traded to the Yankees for outfielder Everson Pereira, and a player to be named later, or cash also involved in that deal, coming over from the Yankees to the Rays too. Caballero was the main piece of the Luke Raley trade when he came over a couple of seasons ago from the Mariners. And he has mostly played short, but has been playing everywhere, including second, third, and the corner outfield, even center field at one point. Led the league in steals last year. Not a great hitter at all, but really fast, good fielder, and pesky presence. And unfortunately, while he underwhelmed at the plate, I'm really happy with what Caballero contributed as the kind of ultimate utility man with speed. Even if he was a bit reckless on the bases sometimes. And he will be useful to a playoff team, to be a pinch runner, defensive replacement, wherever they want to put him. Lots of value there. Meanwhile, Everson Pereira, interesting piece to get back for the Rays. Can play all of the outfield spots, is mostly a center fielder, and is a bit like Jose Siri, but not quite as fast as Jose Siri, as in that he's got a lot of power, but struggles to make contact, really, is Pereira. Could be Jose Siri, could be slightly better, but slightly less fast than Jose Siri. He's kind of a wild card piece to get back, which is kind of what you can hope for in terms of Caballero. But he could be playing some Major League Baseball this year if there's injuries, or he really starts to heat up in AAA. He could be part of a Major League roster as soon as this year, maybe, and he'll get a good chance in spring training next year as well. So if he can make a few adjustments to make contact a little bit more significantly, he could be a significant add for the Rays. And I think, again, for what is ultimately a utility piece, light hitting utility piece, a bit like Ahmed Rosario last year, I think the Rays did well to get an interesting, almost Major League ready piece in Pereira from the Yankees as well. So I'm happy with that trade too. And this is all sounding very, very positive. Then, right at the deadline, I'm talking minutes around the deadline. In fact, I think the latter of the two that I'm about to talk about was announced after the deadline, where they were filed right at the last minute. So and Jeff Passan only has 2 pairs of hands, so he's got to tweet the trades one at a time. So a few of them filter through after the deadline. The first one was, I think, an extremely shocking trade, which is the Rays acquired Adrian Hauser from the Chicago White Sox in exchange for Curtis Mead, Duncan Davitt, and Ben Peoples. Okay, so let's talk about Adrian Hauser. Adrian Hauser was considered in the upper echelon in rental starting pitchers available. He is having an outstanding year for the Chicago White Sox. In 11 games, he's 6-2, 2.10 ERA. Outstanding. Really great numbers. 2.10 ERA through 11 starts, averaging over 6 innings a start. Really good. But what's interesting is that he's never been this good before. So people wonder if he's a mirage. So he was like really good, but also a risky pickup. So the Rays trading Curtis Mead, which honestly doesn't surprise me, and I'll talk a bit about that in a minute, to go get starting pitching help was interesting, and I guess a telltale sign of how they view Shane McClanahan's year shaping out. I see Hauser, he's a rental, first of all, taking Zach Littell's spot in the rotation for the remainder of the year, and will produce Zach Littell type stars. He doesn't have blow away stuff by any means, but he is very good at inducing ground balls and getting weak contact. He is good at that. Lots of ground balls, lots of weak contact. That's how he works. He's a lot like Zach Littell in that start. So we've replaced Zach Littell in the immediate term by getting Adrian Hauser. In return, Ben Peoples and Duncan Davitt are both fine pitching prospects, but also a threat to leave the White Sox at the end of the year, either via Rule 5 or minor league free agency. So those guys are kind of throw-ins. Curtis Mead and the potential service time he's going to provide and the potential he does still have is a lot to give up for what is ultimately a rental starter for a team that's semi in the mix. This is a trade that really confuses me. Hauser's going to leave for free at the end of the year. Curtis Mead is going to be a White Sox for the next few years. And even if Curtis Mead doesn't fulfill his potential, it still feels like a lot to give up for a rental starter when we are not injury plagued by any means. I know that we've given up Zach Littell and Shane McClanahan's not going to be back. But even without Hauser, we had Bars, Boyle, and Pepio. And yeah, I guess we needed the innings, but Ian Seymour could have done it. Joe Rock could have done it. But they decided to go bring in Hauser. I'm not sure about this one. This feels like a massive overpay for a non-area of need. I don't know what you guys think about this. I don't know if the Rays plan to extend Hauser or have something else in mind, but I guess this is a signal that they still think they can go for it, but Shane McClanahan's not going to be starting pitching reinforcement, I guess. And Neander kind of reinforced that in his latest interview on the Rays broadcast, where he said that Shane McClanahan's going to be like a 1-2 inning guy for the remainder of this year. He's going to be like a Drew Rasmussen last year type guy. Yeah, so I'm not a fan of this trade. I think Hauser has been very good, but he could very much be Aaron Savale-esque, where he was good before he came over, but it was all kind of a mirage, and his BABIP luck ran out the moment he comes over. And Curtis Mead, while I think his time with the Rays is over and he did need a change of scenery, I felt like we could have got more out of trading Curtis Mead in a package than a rental starter. And Curtis Mead could still be good with consistent major league playing time. I don't know what you guys think about Hauser, but I don't really see the vision on this one. This was a trade that I don't really like very much. And the final trade was getting Griffin Jax from the Minnesota Twins in exchange for Taj Bradley. Now, Jax has been an elite reliever the past few years, slightly worse this year than he has been in years prior. But in 2024, he was absolutely elite. In 2023, he was very, very good. Even this year, I think he's still pitched quite well on a kind of underwhelming Twins team. He has an amazing changeup and a good sweeper as well. He's more of an off-speed guy. His fastball isn't great, but oh my word, is his off-speed and breaking offerings really elite plus. And he could be an absolute demon for this bullpen, which is really starting to turn a corner with Edwin Uceda starting to turn good again as well. Taj Bradley feels like a steep price, but you got to remember that Griffin Jax is still got a few years left. I think it's 3 years left of control after this one as well. So he's going to be in our bullpen for as long as we want him to be, and is going to get tweaks from Kyle Snyder as well. I think he's going to be the closer. He could even be the closer next year. I don't think this year, because I think Pete Fairbanks is still very, very good and still going to be here for the remainder of the year. If in the offseason Pete Fairbanks moves on, then Griffin Jax could very easily slide into the closer role, and I really, really like that. Taj, we talked about him potentially not having a future on the team anymore, and that's because he's so inconsistent. And while he has a good fastball and splitter, that's all he really has, and it's too easy for hitters to sit on something, and he doesn't have a third out pitch, which is kind of what you can get away with when you're a reliever, like a one-inning reliever. But when you're trying to go through a lineup 2 to 3 times, you need a third pitch, probably a fourth pitch if you're going to be at all effective. And because his command of those first 2 pitches is not perfect, it means that he can have some pretty atrocious starts. He can have some pretty amazing starts because his stuff is pretty good. But ultimately, he's just so inconsistent. And while he's still young, you can still figure him out, and the Twins are willing to take that bet. I think his future with the team was running out anyway. We sent him down to AAA. That's how much he was struggling. He's going to report to AAA in Minnesota as well. Griffin Jax is an amazing ad, and I'm really happy with that, and an ambitious ad. And to summarize the trade deadline, we lost Littell, we lost Jansen, we lost Caballero, and we lost Mead. But in return, got Jax, Fiducia, Fortes for the Major League roster. And I think the Major League roster is better. I think and Hauser, this is ultimately a better roster, a better Major League roster now than we had this time last week. So this was ultimately a buying deadline, despite us subtracting a couple of pieces. Apart from Littell, they were kind of on the outside looking in pieces, which is great to see. I love to see the ambition from Eric Neander that this team can potentially put together a run and get back into a playoff spot. They really believe in this group, and they have bought to try and get this team to the playoffs. However, this team has been absolutely awful since the start of July. I mean, since the All-Star break, where I believe 4-11 since the All-Star break, which is really, really bad. And we've been the worst team in baseball since the start of July. It's been really, really bad. And we've dropped 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. Okay, it's the Dodgers. But we're about to go on a huge 4-series road trip in the West Coast, facing the Angels, the Mariners, the Athletics, and the Giants. We need to go at least 8-4 on that road trip if we want to get back into things. At this point, being just above 500 is not going to get us back into the mix. We've got to go on a run, and a sustained run, to make up 4 games. And we've got all these other teams in the mix trying to get there as well. Texas have managed to come back into the mix. The Angels are right on us. The Royals are right back in the mix. So not just the Mariners, Red Sox, and Yankees in those wild card spots, but there's also the Rangers, Angels, and Royals also on the, just outside looking in with the Rays. We've got to be better than all of those teams by at least 4 games. And you've got to do that by going on an actual winning run. And that has got to start right now. Fair enough, losing 2 or 3 to the Dodgers, we chalk it off. Okay? But if we don't start winning over this road trip, then I think we're going to start running out of real estate to get back into the playoff picture. And that is such a shame, because this team's shown what it was capable of in June and late May with how good they were. And to be this bad results-wise has been absolutely infuriating as a fan. And I think it will be a massive waste of what I think is ultimately a good team if this team doesn't make the playoffs. Because they're not as bad as they are playing right now. I really believe that they're not as bad as they are playing right now. Maybe they're not as good as what they showed in that big run, but they're definitely not as bad as what they are right now. And it has been infuriating to watch Rays baseball lately. So hopefully they are enthused by the buys at the deadline, and we can get healthy and we can really make a push in August and September to make this work. We have got 50 games left. And honestly, we're going to need to win 35 of those games, at least. We're going to need to go 35-15, I think, if we got any chance to make the playoffs. So the race is on. I guess we've tooled up. We'll see what we can do. Something that could tool you up and has no deadline, you can do it right now, is going to shop.rblrsports.com and grabbing some of the best Tampa Bay sports merch available on the market. And it's not a rental either. You can get merch for your Rays, for your Lightning, for your Bucks, for your Rowdies, for your Sun, all there at shop.rblrsports.com. And you can use the promo code FLAPPY to get 10% off your order. Whatever's in it, Flappy will get you 10% off. FLAPPY, shop.rblrsports.com. And also, while you're there, you should also check out the RBLR Rays Roundtable, which is on every week at rblrsports.com. It is the best Rays article out there. It is published weekly. We have a number of amazing authors contributing bite-sized bits of Rays analysis about all sorts, minor league stuff, major league stuff, trades, stuff kind of more macro and more micro. It's all there. And if you read it, you will be the smartest Rays fan in the room. I guarantee it. And you can find it every Monday at rblrsports.com. Okay, so I guess we should talk a little bit about the actual on-field action before we get out of here today. The The Rays played 2 series against the reigning American League and National League champions, the Yankees and the Dodgers. While the Rays won that first game against the Yankees, thanks to Drew Rasmussen being excellent, as he always is, the Rays then went on to lose 3 games in a row. One of them, heartbreakingly, in extra innings. Kevin Kelly blew the leads. We've got to start thinking, is Kevin Kelly going to still be in the bullpen? Who knows? Well, he's been demoted, so we do know. Is there a future of Kevin Kelly in the bullpen? I hope so, because I think people are being too hard on him. I think he's been bad this year, but I think he's a really valuable arm in the pen that can, he can get ground balls and he can be efficient. And I think he is not a closer by any stretch, but I think there's a valuable arm there, and I'm hoping a stint in AAA can rebuild his command, his confidence, and he can come back up and be a valuable piece to this team at some point soon. We lost on the trade deadline day as well, which was a shame. Pepio didn't have his best stuff. Stroman pitched quite well, and then got released. So that's how that's gone. We got dominated by a pitcher that the Yankees then released. So for me, it's the offense that's the main problem more than the pitching staff. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but that's how I'm feeling about all of this. Because if we then look at the Dodgers series, all the games were decided by some runs to nothing. We got blanked by the Dodgers twice on Friday's game and today's game. We got completely shut out and couldn't capitalize with runners in scoring position. The pitching was bad by Bars. In the first game, he has started to be on a run of bad games, and I do wonder what Bars needs to do to fix stuff. And I wonder if his leash is starting to run out. Do you guys think that Bars' leash is starting to run out on the team? Because he's been bad for a while now, despite getting off to an excellent start. Yandy Diaz had an excellent game against Blake Snell, hitting 2 home runs. And Drew Rasmussen was lights out in the 4-0 win. I love Drew Rasmussen. He's the best. I hope he stays here forever. And Yandy Diaz has been red hot. He's been the only good Rays hitter in this awful stretch, it feels like, because Brandon Lau is good, but he hasn't been healthy. Junior has been inconsistent, good at home, bad on the road. And then in the game today, we got dominated by Yamamoto. And while Joe Boyle was excellent, he only managed to go 5 innings before Cash decided to move on to Mason Englert, who was okay, but ultimately undone. And yeah, we couldn't capitalize. We loaded the bases in the 9th and then couldn't get it done. So I guess, how do I think the Rays are going to fare from here? I think we're going to be facing some tough pitching over the next couple of weeks, including some lefties. I'm going to say it. Zach's not going to be happy with me for saying it, but I think this is last chance saloon for the Rays, this road trip. If the offense can't show me something during this road trip, I'm out. I'm out on the 2025 Rays. And it's a shame because I was so excited about this team about a month ago. But I've lost a lot of enthusiasm for how this Rays team has been playing. And it's getting difficult to watch. So if they can't show me something over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to pull the plug. I'm going to pull the plug in believing in this team, and I'm going to start thinking about how we can line ourselves up for 2026 for the best possible position. Because, hey, we're going to have a new owner. We might be able to inject some funds into the team. We'll be back at the Trop. All loads of fun stuff. Exciting. We'll have a full year of Shane, but I don't want to do that. And I know this team has fight in it. So if any members of the 2025 Tampa Bay Rays are watching this right now, listen to me. You have got this in you. You have the at-bats. You have the fielding. You have the pitching. You have everything it takes to be a playoff team. You've just got to start acting like it. Show me something. Show us all something over these next 2 weeks. Get on a plane. Get some rest. Make your last stand. Raise the stakes. How do you guys feel about the outlook for the 2025 Rays? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on all the socials as well. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day for today's RBLR Rays show. If you've enjoyed what you've listened to, be sure to drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel too, because you'll be able to see whenever a new episode drops, as well as a new episode of all our other shows on the RBLR network, talking about the Rowdies, Bucks, Lightning, Sun as well. That's all there. And be sure to drop a comment if you disagree, agree, got any questions, let us know in the comments section too. Otherwise, I want to thank you so much for sticking around with me today, listening to me talking to the void about the Tampa Bay Rays. We're grateful for you, and we will be seeing you next week. But in the meantime, Rays up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.